welcome all of you. Thank you for being with us. So my name is Denise Giga, and I am working as a PET consultant, pédagogique numérique consultant for the RICI and the French sector. And this is my colleague Robin Long. She's a PET consultant also for pédagogie numérique, we can say, and she's working for PROCEDE. But many years ago, we were teachers together teaching cooking. So, and we get along well. So we did a lot of projects. Now our road, we still work together, but we were at Lester B. Pearson. So, and we did the project at one point, and we're going to show you the project that we did and why we do it and the result and the impact and all this.
Yeah, so we really want to talk about the project, the genesis of it, like the problems that we were having, the genesis of it, the project itself, how we got the funding, we want to talk about that, and then what happened. Because this project finished at the mid-2019, and we went through a pandemic, and we're going to talk about media, right? The huge influence on the takeaways of the project, and we've both moved on to other things, and you'll see in this presentation a lot of other people benefited from this and moved on. So it's creating those seeds of change. So we want to show you this project and then sort of what happened to it afterwards, and connect it to really illustrate the vocational training world. So that's going to be our presentation today. Before we start, I'm not going to read the land acknowledgement because we had one before, but in the guise of social justice, I think it's important that we take every time we're sort of in a situation where we're going to self-reflect and think critically about education. I think it's important to acknowledge that we do have reparations to make to a lot of different actors and different stakeholders. And in the context of vocational training, I think this is especially important because vocational training is about disseminating a trade culture. And that trade culture can be both restrictive and empowering. And so I think it's important to just take a moment and say, yes, I do acknowledge that I have a responsibility in this to act in a restorative manner. Okay, so today, we have a 1-hour interactive workshop. So you see, there's stuff up on the walls. We're actually going to be doing something today. If you need the washrooms, they're just outside at the back of the hall. Wi-Fi access, we are going to be accessing videos online. So if you want to make sure if you have a cell phone or a tablet and you want to make sure it's connected to the Wi-Fi, if you don't want to use your data, that's fine. They're not very long. They're only a few minutes each, but just so you know that we are going to be doing that. So if you have your cell phone or your tablet, we will be using it today. And anytime you have questions, feel free to ask. You don't have to wait till the end. We're a small group, so let's go ahead and interact, okay? So this is a project where we really looked at how we were teaching, how it was not quite congruent with the trade, and how it's more about the students learning than it is about our teaching. So with that, what we're going to do today is we're looking at the project overview, and we'll just do a brief timeline. We're going to talk a lot about VT context, reality, and issues. We'll talk about the genesis of the project and then getting funding. And when we talk about the different parts of the project, we actually have 2 activities that we're going to do where you're going to experience part of the project. Then we're going to talk about the seeds of growth, so where we are with it today, and then a quick little wrap up. So the goals today, we want to recognize a vocational training reality. It's inside an education system, but it is not education, it is training, and that causes a bit of friction. We want to explore the trajectory of a project. We want to experience how we learn trade with the media, because what's really crucial to understand in trade education, nobody has to be there. Everybody can learn a trade without going to school. So, and especially today with the internet, man, what's the first thing all of us do when we need to learn something? YouTube. Trades are no different. So how do we leverage that ability to access information instantly with this idea that it's housed inside public education? We also want to identify some key takeaways and discuss challenges. So the project overview. Okay. So before 2016 this is where we're going to talk about. So Denise has been teaching, she's being very modest, been teaching cooking for a very long time. And there are many, many of us that have come through with her as our mentor. She was also very instrumental in setting up the Bachelor of Vocational Education program at university that all of us teachers have to do. So this is a pre-2016. She's very well aware of the context of training happening inside vocational situations. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Then we're going to talk about the genesis of the project. So how do we come up with this idea? And what were we trying to fix exactly? What was serendipity? Because as everybody knows in projects, there's just some stars that align. So what happened? Then we're going to talk about the project itself. And then, and this is where we're going to go into the two aspects, because there are two really key parts of it. It's not just the use of media, but it was connecting the use of media and pedagogical approach. We have all been on Instagram and we know all those beautiful images of food that we see on Instagram. So what's the learning behind that? And how are we connecting that to expectations in the trade workforce? Because we are being expected to learn from the internet and give back, right? It's user-generated content and user-generated learning. And then we're going to talk about, so as you can see, neither Denise or I are working as teachers anymore, teaching cooking, but this project has sent waves. And we're not saying that to make ourselves sound more important, but opening up this idea of using media and getting actually a substantial amount of funding for this, and then sharing this information legitimized a lot of other centers going, wait a minute, well, we have ideas too, and then opened up avenues for them to find funding to be able to build their own projects. Okay. All right. So, context, reality, and issues. So you guys heard my presentation yesterday. So we did talk a little bit about the context of vocational training. So like I said, training is about workforce ready skills. The concept of training is that I'm going to give you the skill that you need to be able to enter into the workforce at entry level. So in the case of cooking, I'm not training you to be a chef. I'm training you to be an entry-level cook, because being a chef takes years of experience and the ability to adjust in context. And that's not something we can do inside trade school. So it's really being able to identify what is that entry-level skill, right? You made the comment on me cutting cubes. Okay, I've cut so many things and cut my fingers so many times. The difference between me and a student coming out of culinary school is just years of experience. I can do it faster because I've done it so much. And that's not something I can give a student at school. So what would be entry-level skills when they have to cut that cube of carrot, right? And that's really important to situate inside an education system, because education is about lifelong learning. It goes after these larger concepts of literacy, numeracy, executive function skills, but it's not so concerned with transferability to an immediate situation, which is what we're concerned about in VT. You know, I know you're struggling with reading, but really, I just need you to be able to choose the right chemical to be able to wash that oven. Okay? How you get to that, go ahead and use any kind of assistive tools. You know, in the workforce, everybody's got a cell phone on them. If you need it, go right ahead. You want to ask your colleague, go right ahead. But inside education, that's not the reality. The reality inside education is, no, you have to be able to do this autonomously. And so there's this friction that happens between education and training. The student reality. So students We have students in vocational training that are 17, right out of high school, or sometimes 16. Like some classes, some programs you can start at 16. And we have people who are 77 that have always wanted to go to culinary school, and now that they're retired and they have time, they're going to fulfill their dream. And we have everything in between. We have students that have IEPs, and we have students that have university degrees that decided they wanted to do this. We have students that are local students that were born and raised in the same area and whose parents went to culinary school. That always creeped me out, where I was like, holy cow, your mom went to this school and now you're coming to this school. And we have students that are international students. There's everything in a class. So the classes are very diverse. Different relationships with education, different relationships with learning, different background knowledge. So there's an assumption in vocational training that this grade 11 level, so secondary 4, English, math, and French, there's an assumption that everybody has that acquired. But there's so much culture associated with that. I learned this in Quebec in this modern era. So the relationship, even with asking teachers questions, you're from here, you're expected to dialogue with the teacher. That shows you're learning and you're curious. But if you're from another culture, that might show that you're being insolent. And so there's a whole relationship with education that you have to. So this student reality this influences enormously vocational training. Once again, and then go back to, well, what about students in difficulty? We just had our keynote there where we were talking about students that have now had a really bad relationship with education, and they have an IEP, and they've been told, here are all the extras that and accommodations we're giving you, and then you show up in vocational training, and you have this poor relationship, and that teacher looks at it and is like, I don't know what to do with an IEP. It says you get 20 extra minutes in an exam, and you can use a dictionary, but I need you to just repair that motor. So do I let you read the manual for 20 extra minutes? What do I do? And it's this. So as in this vocational world, it tends to get very conflictual. And then they're humans, just like us. And because we're dealing with such a huge age range and different backgrounds, they have family obligations. Some of them are working. Actually, I'd say the vast majority of them are working, because who can go to school and not work at this point, right? Vast majority of them are working. Like family obligations. Sometimes there's social issues that are there as well. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So the student reality is probably one of the biggest challenges we face in UT. And then technology and education and in trade. So you can imagine, are everybody from education here? You? Everybody? Yeah, everybody's from education. Okay, big push in the last couple of years, right? Teams, Google Classroom, all the gamification, all that cool stuff. That's all linked to perpetuating an education system and perpetuating learning inside this educational world. It's not necessarily the way the trade is integrating technology. So when you leave school, you're never going to see a Google Classroom again. Okay, so which is fine. You're inside an education system. You got to adhere to that world. But for those of you that were at the lightning talk yesterday, so that auto mechanic. Well, what digital skills do I need to get them to learn? What digital skills do they already have? And what is the workforce expecting? So this was also a major thought in us. And everybody knows the explosion of cooking shows and the use of different forms of media has just democratized that trade completely. So whether it's TV shows where it's showcasing a chef, or whether it's like the contestant type TV shows, right, the Iron Chef and all that kind of stuff, whether it's now accessing TikTok videos on how to make stuff, Instagram images on beautiful food, and not just that, then there's the commercialization of it as well, and the marketing side of these platforms, YouTube videos. So all this, like our trade in the case of cooking is incredibly linked to media at all different forms. So if you become a restaurant cook, what do you need to understand about media? And can media open other careers for you in the cooking trade? So those of you that have been to Ricardo's website, a lot of those images are created by chefs, and food placement on, like, to make the beautiful image, and the recipe development, and those are chefs, right? So there's whole worlds out there that kind of don't get addressed in culinary school. So the link between technology in education and technology in the workforce for that specific trade, we saw that it wasn't aligned, because we were getting training on Google Classroom and this and that. But, you know, as tradespeople, we were just kind of like, you got to use it. We're inside an education system. I get it. And I used it a lot. But you have to situate it in the context of the trade. So for the context, and so this is before 2016. This is what's going through our heads.
So we're going to, Robin did the description of, before our project. And me as a teacher, I was, as Robin said, I was teaching since a long time. And in the trade sector, there is two teaching methods. The most used one are demonstration, like everybody do it, even if you do, you are a plumber or whatever you're teaching, you demo. And then after the student, they practice and they can do peer teaching and all this. So also what we do when you are in a school, you have a cooking lab where there is, all the cooking instruments and devices. But before that, we used to go in a classroom for a theory period every morning or every night, depending. And then you are in a classroom with the student for 20 minutes to explain what we're going to do, what we're going to do tonight. Do you have your recipe? Do we have this? And everybody, they come late, this and that. And I said to me, this is not a good, does not maximize the time that we have with the students. So I said, I was talking with Robin and I said, why don't we try to have a project where we can bring TV in the lab and the class will start in the lab. And everybody will be up on their feet, like it's our trade. We're supposed to be active. And I said then, because even in the classroom, if I want to do a demo, sometime I will bring this in the classroom, I will do a demo, and then I will come back, and then you don't have no material to bring. You are in the lab, everything is there à la portée de la main, and you can, you can work. So that's what, c'était l'idée, it was the idée de départ. I said we need to be more interactive, and we have been, we became a school, Google education school, maybe a couple of years before. So there is Drive, you can save everything, you can, the picture that we do with the student, we can drag them at the end of the day, we share a folder, everything is very, you will hear me saying that very often, everything is fluid. So I said, we need that fluidity when we teach, and we don't know, we know a student without a phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, they can use even their phone, even if now there is some contestation, but, they can have their recipe there, no more recipe, where is my recipe, I don't have it. Tout est là. So c'était l'idée, it was the idée to, not to go in the classroom and to go in the lab where we belong to that, that environment. So we had that in 2017, we were welcoming a cohort of international students coming from 6 countries, I think. Mm-hmm. And it happened very fast. And my director, she said, can you come with me? We have a meeting tomorrow. Maybe we will have a new cohort of students. I'm always puzzled to understand that sometimes we know it 2 weeks before they arrive, but okay. We discussed, and I was there and I was listening. And I could understand that there was a lot of money coming. So I was very calm. And then my director, she said, okay, what do you think? I said, we can welcome that group at night. we have one kitchen available. She said, oh my God, I'm so happy, Denise, thank you. And I said, can I have $20,000 to do a project techno-pedagogique? She looked at me and she said, yes. So it looks like, it was just like that, because you need money to do that. And usually, sometimes we will be told by our director, il n'y a pas d'argent, there is no money, there is no money. But I could feel that it was maybe the good moment. So I called Robin and I said, okay, on y va, and we're going to do that project. So it was without any funding from the gouvernement. It was our school, they were happy that we had l'argent, and I said, what we would like to do is to put TV in each lab and to have iPads and to work with that. But because there is 5 labs and, you know, installing the TVs, mais très simple with an Apple box, and then you can connect with your iPads. Hein? C'est ça qu'on a eu.
That's but like in the beginning,
Wait.
1 TV,
Wait.
2 iPads, 1 Apple TV. The beginning, that's what it was, okay? Because this was a pilot project. And what's important is that, okay, the international students in VT, at this point, this was kind of the savior of VT. A lot of money comes in with international students. And it's like, ooh, free money, we like free money. Right? And so getting that money to start the project, but at the same time, if the international students drive it, and that's normal. You're running a center, and a center, you have budgets. You can't bank everything on potential money. So we can do a pilot project, but this pilot project is just for these 2 teachers that are teaching that international cohort, and it started small. Because if it didn't work, then it was easy to pull the plug on it, right? And that's normal. I think that, like, I have no issues with that. But we started it, and very quickly we had a lot of success. So we took out the theory part and we went straight into the kitchen and we started doing. And remember, a trade is about learning by doing. You can make as many mistakes as you want, just learn from your mistakes. As opposed to in the workforce, don't make any mistakes because that costs money, right? That's sort of your right as a student inside vocational training is to learn by doing. So we had a lot of success. These students were learning. And in the beginning, you know, everybody's pretty skeptical, especially because it's 2 new teachers that are doing this project. And well, I was working with another teacher, not just with Denise. And you know, the department's kind of going, huh? Cell phones in the kitchen? No, that's bad. And I'm like, have you been in the workforce lately? There's only cell phones in the kitchen. So let us teach them how to use it properly in a way that can benefit the trade rather than like right now, where cell phones have been banned from vocational centers, which is a whole other problem. Anyway, so we had some successes, and then the center director a few months later said to us, hey, you know, you really should tell people about this pilot project. And so we did our first conference presentation. Remember, that was QACVE, our very first conference presentation where we presented this. And I look back at it now, and I was like, oh my God, we tried to put everything into that one conference presentation because we were so excited that students were really responding to this. So, and what was interesting, we'll talk about this later, is it became a collaborative project. It wasn't about me telling the students you need to learn to use this media. It was about the teachers observing the students going, huh, we just put iPads into the kitchen and check what they're doing with them. That gives me an idea. We could do this. So it was very much a collaborative process.
And just, you had the demo with Robin. We would have liked to have a dispositif here, but it was not possible. But if you think there is a control in the kitchen, when we do the demos and the TV is just here behind the teacher.
Yeah.
Up and up and little incliné. So the students on the first row who always see are okay, but the second and the third row who are talking, now they can see what's going on. So we have the cutting board or the board. We find a very nice stand on which we can put an iPad upside down. And so they have a top view of what we're doing, avec les mains et tout, and it's there. And when we're done, when the students go at their station to practice, then we put it in a loop. C'est comme un petit vidéo, and it's very easy. We have an application, so we loop it, and then they can correct themselves and then you can work with them. It's simple, very simple, but it really changed
But it really
the way we were teaching.
Yeah. So we're going to do a little activity now so you can experience a little bit how we integrated this media. So one of the things that we did was, like I said, so go back to what we were saying about theory. And we said, you know what? It's not about what they know, it's about what they can do. And all of vocational training is about that. We really want you to know things, but really we need you to be able to do them first and then ask the question, why am I doing it like this? So you start from application and go backwards to knowledge, right? Like if you look at your Bloom's taxonomy, we actually start at application and then go back to knowledge. And so the example we're going to show you today is hygiene and food safety competency. It's competency number 2. It's the one that, like, obviously you got to learn this right off the bat. Don't kill your clients. It's a very bad thing to kill your clients, okay? But when you look at the ministry specifications, it's really, the competency is set up to be a theory competency. You have 15 hours, here's all the horrible bacteria, and here's all the stuff that that goes wrong in the kitchen, and cross-contamination, and allergies, yada yada. And here's what you do to prevent that. And okay, cool, everybody got it? Here's your exam. There's an hour-long exam, 15-page exam, write everything out, multiple, yada yada. That was hygiene and food safety. It had a high failure rate. Okay. First of all, you're coming into vocation. Remember all those students, where they're from, their backgrounds, their relationship with education. So we just told them, yeah, vocational training, but remember all the difficulty you had? It's okay, don't worry about it. Here's more. And we said, in the trade, I don't care if you know the names of the different bacteria. I really don't. Just make sure that's clean. Okay. So we kind of looked at that and we said, okay, that program of study, we can teach this. They can learn that a different way. And it was Denise that came up with the idea with the burger. Because remember, why did you sign up for culinary school? Because you want to write essays about bacterial contamination? No, you signed up to culinary school because you want to cook food. So it was like, no. Let's go into the kitchen, let's cook some food, and let's learn about hygiene and food safety while we are cooking food. So it was Denise that came up with the idea with the burger. Because the burger, first of all, burgers are delicious. So it's something we want to cook. And it has all the food elements that represent critical points in hygiene and food safety. We're dealing with ground meat. So we're dealing with potential contamination. We're dealing with temperature control, not only at the storage process, but at the cooking process. We're dealing with lettuce, the #1 food that has foodborne illness. Lettuce. Okay, everybody thinks, and I know you're just like, really? I buy the clamshell packs and it's all purdy? Yeah, you should be washing that. Because when we get outbreaks of E. coli, it's often in lettuce. Okay, so stuff like that. We're dealing with mayonnaise. Another one. We're dealing with buns where everybody's like, yeah, you just grab a bun and you cut it in half. And it's like, yeah, is that counter clean? Did you just have that lettuce on the counter that wasn't washed? And now you put a bun on it and you're going to serve it just like that. There's no cooking involved. So it was a really great thing.
You wash your hands before cooking.
Wash your hands.
Check everything.
Exactly, right? So the burger encompassed everything that you need to be able, all the techniques you need to be able to have in order to show that you can, in order to demonstrate that you know hygiene and food safety. But there was one element that we couldn't go after in that, and that was personal hygiene practices. Washing your hands, breaking the habit of this, right? Jewelry. In the kitchen we have to wear hair nets and beard nets, this kind of thing. Breaking the habit of tasting the food with your finger. Like all of it, we couldn't measure that with it. Well, the finger we could. Anyway, but so then we designed a series of videos, and they were spot the mistakes videos. So once again, the students are at the beginning. So you can't just ask them, list all the things you're not supposed to do when handling. It's like, no, okay. But can you find mistakes? Yes. And because we were dealing with international students, this was a way to sort of lower the stress level of not being able to speak the language very well. Because you're going to write it out in English. Think about the key words that you're learning. But if you want, during the learning process, not evaluation time, but during the learning process, write down the words in your language. And then using the cell phone and Google Translate, I can just verify that that word is the same as the word in English, that you understand the concept. Because at this point, I need you to be able to understand the concept. We're working on English skills. But honestly, in hygiene and food safety, I'm more concerned about you executing those skills than I am about you saying it in full and complete sentences. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to have fun with this. We're going to watch one of the videos. They're only like 45 seconds long, okay? And you don't know anything about hygiene and food safety, but let's see what we come up with. So you can do this in a group or in pairs.
With your phone.
And here you go. And so this is the document. We had a bit of an issue with the printer. I'm sorry about it being so small. Okay, but this is what the student would be given. Okay, so the student would be given a sheet like this, and we say, okay, watch the video, and then go back and watch it again. And every time you see a mistake, pause the video, write down the timestamp, and tell me what that mistake is. Okay, so what we can do is you can use your phones if you want, or the other possibility is we could do this. I can play it once as a group here.
Oh, thank you.
Oh yeah, the pens.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you sanitize this pen? No.
So can everybody access it with their phone? Is it working?
I just see it on the big screen.
You want me to put it on the big screen? Okay.
Wait, I'll do that one.
Yeah, we can do that.
What is funny also is that the teacher who did the video is one of the most,
Yeah, that's funny.
concerned, and then he's playing the person who is, doing a bad, and every time I look at them, it makes me laugh. Maybe a context, just as Robin told you, so we did the exam practical, so we pushed all the questions in the burger, except those questions. So in the lab, the student, and was it 8 at a time, maybe 8 students at a time, they were doing their burger, but there was a station where there is an iPad who is not connected to the network. And then they come and to see those videos and to do exactly what we're doing now. So they sit there one by one, and they have to tell us what was wrong.
Yeah.
So maybe for you it was not all obvious, but for us it's very funny to look at that because they're making wrong thing every time. So
let's go ahead. So let me give you guys a few minutes. I'll play it again. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, so they learn by watching.
Do they learn by watching it? Yes, because inevitably, I'm sure some of you have written down stuff that isn't a mistake.
And then they learn, continue by doing it.
Yes. Because it's a process,
So,
right?
Okay. But you mentioned about theory.
Yeah.
And you are changing it to don't have theory or to reduce.
Learn the theory through doing. So rather than learn theory, apply, we're going to do stuff, make mistakes, ask questions, and then the theory comes out.
I wanted
Yeah,
exactly about the latest example. that
Okay.
You said,
yeah.
I didn't know that. And I always, me and my wife, we put food at home.
Yes.
Next time,
Yeah.
I will hold you there.
I guarantee you, like, you'll see.
Yeah, this comes from, but it is also serious.
It's also serious?
No, serious.
Theory, yeah, but you don't need to learn theory statically, like between a master and an apprentice. Me telling you this, you can be put in a situation where you're gonna need that theory. And then it's like, oh. So I didn't, like, we only saw one of these. So we didn't see the one with the lettuce being washed, because there's like a whole series of these videos, right? And there's some that we don't show the public because they're being used in exams, okay? But like, so a student that doesn't pick up, and like I'm gonna show you, there is an answer key to this. So when we do this, students will write down stuff. Then we look at the answer key and the student's like, wait a minute, lettuce, what? It's in a clamshell, it's totally ready to go. And then that's when the theory comes out. So it's a different way of teaching and learning, because it's about putting the learner in a situation where they need the information, but they're confronted with the fact that they need that information. And then the theory comes out, as opposed to like the entire schooling system which says, no. Fill your head with all this information, and then I'm gonna put you in a situation where you need to like figure out how to pull that information out.
It's too small to identify the details.
Okay,
And it
sorry.
won't rotate.
You can need to rotate it, okay.
Yeah.
Question as well. I feel that I'm not expressing experiential learning, you know? One of my core two classmates at Montreal, his PhD was
On experiential learning.
experiential learning. I suppose that the outcome would be better for students, because there are a lot of studies that learning theory and then going to practice wouldn't like necessarily mean you have learned what you need to learn at the first place. Have you done any kind of listening evaluation, like to see your methods difference
Okay.
between the previous methods?
Like formally, like research style?
Yes.
Okay, because remember, we're DT, we're the dum-dums of the education. Right, like, in the sense that, and I mean that, I'm being disparaging, but a vocational education, it doesn't matter what the trade is, you have to have experience in your trade before you teach your trade. Okay? There is,
Yeah.
it's not that much. I'm gonna say it's like 5 or 8 years of trade experience before you can officially teach it. That's the official, you can officially teach your trade. But as a general rule, I would say it's about 20 years experience before people become teachers. So if you enter your trade at 20, you're 40 when you start teaching. You also get hired as a teacher with 0 pedagogical skills. You get hired because you know your trade. So you have no pedagogical training whatsoever. That's also that's a whole other host of problems. Okay, there's some advantages to it, not many, but it's hard on the VT teacher. And the government says if you're teaching at the secondary level, which is what VT is, it's the equivalent of secondary 5, you have to have a Bachelor of Education, a 120 credit Bachelor of Education from a Quebec university. So they built the Bachelor of Vocational Education, which Denise helped build. And we, as VT teachers, we work full-time, and we do that degree part-time on the side, on the weekends, in the evenings. So it's very hard on the VT teacher, and it usually takes about 10 years.
Sorry, what did you say it was again? What's the?
It's a Bachelor of Vocational Education.
You have to have it.
You have to have it, yes.
That's why you're teaching.
Yeah.
You have to do another credit.
This is something you may not know, but does every school board follow that rule
Yes.
for their VT teachers?
Absolutely. Yes. But,
I would find that surprising.
okay, now. Let's do a little bracket. That's the legal context. Yeah, let's talk about reality. Yeah. The reality is that it really depends on the trade. Because the centers need teachers. When you're in construction and you have spent 20 years in construction, you are gonna make way more money as a construction worker than you are as a VT teacher. So who becomes a teacher? So you get somebody to become a teacher and they're like, oh, what? I'm not going to, you forget this. Like, I don't even have a decision. I don't want to do this. What does the center do? Okay, you can't be a teacher. They need teachers. So then you get stuck in this world of like, okay, well, I'll give you a contract. You know, and there's, so, yes. So
Does
yes.
Does red seal over?
So red, okay, so that, red seal's interesting. Do you wanna answer that one or no?
I think we're moving away from that.
Yeah,
It's another qualification, but it's not recognized by the minister as the qualification to be a teacher. You have to do it back end.
so
Even
red
if
seal,
red seal.
yeah, so the red seal is kind of the national standard. Because Quebec is the only province that has vocational training inside its public education system at the secondary level. All the other provinces don't have it. They have other systems, but they don't have that. So the red seal was a way to sort of standardize the education, or standardize the qualification, not the education part. Because you can go get you can work 20 years as a cook, never walk into a culinary school and get your red seal. Certified.
It's probably more recognized by the unions, would it be, like the red seal?
I think it's like provincial, I
Maybe
think, but
Canada.
yeah.
In Quebec, there is some person wearing the red seal, but it's why it's less popular.
Yeah.
It's known, I would say.
Is
But
there,
if you go in Ontario.
Yes.
is there any other training for vocational teachers other than bachelor's? There's no quick and.
You know that there's been a lot of
Contract.
the minister said, you know, now maybe for the teacher are teaching French or mathematics, maybe they will be able to do like a back plus 30 credits.
Mhm.
But they say that teacher from the trade, they don't have a university level diploma, they want them to reach that. So I don't think that we will change it. I mean, it's been discussed.
Yeah, it's a different world. So like, if you want, we can discuss this a little bit further, because it is really interesting. There's something that vocational training does well, and that's that experiential learning. And I can give you anecdotal information, but this is a personal thing. I am now doing a master's degree, and I'm one of the few VT teachers that goes on to do a master's degree, because we're missing that kind of data. And we can't make policy decisions, or we are making policy decisions just by transferring data over from the youth sector or from adult general. We don't, so we are missing that, but we can talk about that later.
Is, just to go back to
Yeah.
this, did you make these videos in-house or did you use an outside?
It's not very.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This is me going, hey, Michelle, you wanna make a video?
Yeah, no, that's great.
It really is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and actually, like a side note on that, that's a huge part of what democratized this for all the other teachers. Because it was easy access. That's an iPad. That's myself and a colleague and an iPad and iMovie. There's nothing special in there. So there's nothing stopping my colleagues from going, wait, yeah, I could do that too. Yeah, it's super easy. And your students can do it too. You don't need a fancy set. And also the thing with the media, and especially cooking, is look at what's going on the internet. People are making their own videos. People are taking their own Instagram images, and what we're talking about food here, and they're uploading. So why, like, let's show that as powerful.
Yeah.
You know?
We work in northern Quebec in an Indigenous setting, and it's, you know, attendance sometimes is an issue. And it would be good, like, for someone to review, okay, that's what it is, like, and just on a side note on that, it's really interesting because I had to supervise a Cree culture teacher that his whole job was Cree culture, so they're showing how to make snowshoes and crafts, like hands-on stuff, exactly like this. And I was supervising him to get his teaching degree, and I was trying to fit all this pedagogy and stuff, and I'm like, he's not giving the outcome and all these things. And then I was brought to our elders camp, how they were traditionally taught, and how they Cree people, or probably most Indigenous people, is there's an elder or a knowledge keeper sits there and is doing, and everyone's observing. And then you do it, and then you don't ask questions, or after you don't ask questions, it's like they just show you.
Talking white people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then after, and so the parallels to what you're saying for vocational training are right in line with what traditionally they're doing in Indigenous cultures.
Yeah. Let's come back.
Can I?
Sorry.
L'examen, c'est très intéressant. C'est pas de critique, parce que-
Yeah, we do have to finish this.
Sorry.
We can
But
talk,
we will talk.
don't be sorry.
Yeah.
Très bien.
Yeah.
So what I want to say about the exam that we're experiencing, we will look at give you the answer, is that you were asking, and I would like to add that, in my career, I like pedagogy and I read a lot, and we said sometimes when you teach the student, you will teach them what they have to do. Let's say you can have them compose a menu. And then you let them compose a menu and you criticize their menu, but you can also give them a menu in which there is mistakes. And finding the error is very popular. You know, you feel smart, you feel right, you look at it. And usually when we give the answer sheet, there is many people, they say, well, I find this also, I find that. And I was helping my teacher in a business sector, and they were, I don't know, the director said, I sat with 8 of my colleagues, and they said, well, it's not doing well in the class. And I was asking them, what do you do? And just an example, the student, they have to do a check.
Yeah, a check, yeah, write a check, you know?
So I said, what do they do? But he said, they write a check. But I said, did you give them a check in which there is a mistake, that is not okay, or the amount is not okay, or, no. You have to do both. So in that exam, instead of asking them on a questionnaire, when do you wash your hands? What are the 5 steps of washing your hands? They come in the kitchen, they wash their hands, and you see that they have done it. So it's comme there is reverse engineering, it's a reverse learning. You ask them to find the error. Et ça marche bien, c'est très populaire.
Yeah, so let's just quickly, so we can get back to this.
It's not theory. They will say, this is not okay. The gentleman who is putting hot stuff in a container, putting a lid and putting it in the fridge without cooling it, it's a big mistake. They need to explain, but they will say, this is wrong.
And then that's where the theory comes out. Well, why is it wrong? Why are you saying that? And that's where the theory comes out, because it's solving a problem that they're confronted with.
And this will give better outcome in learning.
We definitely found, because we
Rather
were
than
dealing with,
accurate learning of something that we don't.
I want the answers,
Give me one thing that you found.
This apron is filthy.
Yes, absolutely. Did you find anything? You said you had the filthy apron. Did you find anything?
Well, I'm not sure, but because when he was taking the temperature, he lifted it out of the pot and it was
Wait.
still.
Yeah.
At least he dip his finger in.
You did his finger in, you find.
When he washed his hands, he didn't use soap, and he wiped his hands on his radiators.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're curious, you can see the other ones here with your sink full of dirty dishes. You have a watch on. You have a watch on. That's a big,
wait.
yeah.
Oh, it's not Band-Aid.
Okay, you got a Band-Aid with no covering. And so, am I including the timestamp that I know the student isn't just like, okay, I'm gonna wing this, right? So so this is, and this was really fun, like this, what we found in, I'm showing you the ideal one, because this is the one where we went from having a high failure rate and having to have remediation, they will rewrite a hygiene exam to everybody passing except for the people that were really doing sketchy stuff in the kitchen. And then it was just like, you really want to be here. Right? And it got, people kind of went, whoa, wait a minute. This is kind of interesting. Right? So,
And I know, Robin, that you would like to say, I think, that she did many videos. One that's maybe 5 or 6 that we use for practice,
yeah.
and we saved 4 of them for the exam.
Yeah.
So when we are at the exam, it's not exactly c'est la même chose, but it's not identical to the one that they have done. So it's not in the same sequence, it's a little different.
We work with a community partner, the Avec, anyway, they do the kitchen brigade program in a lot of our high schools. And the hygiene part is such a huge piece of it, and so we're teaching these kids at a really young age, a lot of this
Yeah.
theory that you're talking about.
Yeah, but like so much better to learn by doing, you know, that theory
That's
will come
exactly
out.
what they're.
Okay, I just wanna say, so it's 11:44, what time do we finish? We finish at noon? Does anybody know?
Well, je pense que oui.
It's 12, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got 15 minutes to blow through this. Okay, so we go to the conference, and we're having success, we're getting, people are paying attention, we get asked to present in this conference. We present in the conference and people are like, wow, okay, and then this happens. So,
you know that the Ministère de l'Éducation, they put what we call the plan numérique. I don't know if you heard of the plan. Digital, exactement. And then with that, they inject a lot of money during those years, about 6 years ago. So they were acquisition, budget d'acquisition. So even though we had done our project, we received some money, we did apply for a mesure 1581. On a eu beaucoup d'argent, hein?
and that was big, because we were one of the first projects. We had
So I heard about it and we built a project and we asked and we received 40,000. C'est ça? 50?
50.
Okay,
Is that
50 000.
It's strictly for
Voc.
alphabet, it's pocket.
C'est mon cas.
But it's changed over the years, okay?
They lowered the amount, but
Yeah.
at the beginning, now everybody wanted to buy equipment also. We received, il y avait beaucoup d'argent, a lot of money, and then, you know, everybody buy different, some people buy a 3D printer or
Yeah.
whatever everywhere in the province. So, and then there was money also for Robin and me to do some training. So we try to do, you know, to do a réseau with some partner. We went to a lot of conferences and we were thinking, we were accompanying our teacher, because at first Robin told you there was 2 tablets and 1 TV, but now there is, you know, they were everywhere, we could buy more. And we also decided, Robin, we target the teacher with who would like to start the project. You don't try to target with the person that doesn't want to do it. So there was 2 or 3 persons who were very excited. So we bought more tablets, and then with that project, it started.
Yeah. And the other thing we have to say is, this is at the boom of the international students, and then all of a sudden there's like 3 cohorts of international students. So it really, like, I can't stress enough, there was a lot of serendipity here. Okay? Being able to get a $50,000 grant to modify a pilot project, having the cohorts of students, like a lot of things align. And I want to stress that, because I don't want you to see this as, this is the blueprint to do this. No. You kind of have to like go back to that context reality. You have to look at your reality and the context of what's going on. You're bringing up the Indigenous side, you know, if we just talk about the multimedia, I don't know if you ever looked at Indigenous TikTok, but holy, and I know TikTok, okay, government, sure, I know, but they're doing amazing stuff on TikTok. And right away, that would be like, I would go to the community and I would be like, you guys have appropriated this tool. How can we leverage your appropriation of this tool and make your learning visible so that you can get credit with the education system? It's not about you conforming to learning the way the education system says you have to. It's a trade. Demonstrate your knowledge, right?
Well, it's also about sharing of expertise, because I was looking into automotive. And I know I don't know the exact term for it, but they have specialized training at some of the centers down here. So say they want to learn how to reprogram the screen for electric car, then all the instructors come to one center and they learn this updated training.
Oh, the Center for Expertise Network, yeah.
Yeah.
Just know the funding for that's disappeared, but yeah.
Oh, okay. But this is the sort of thing, like,
Yeah,
our setting being in a remote setting,
yeah.
that if we have a teacher, but we want to have an updated skill of something, it's a really good way.
It would be excellent. Unfortunately, there's no funding, but that's where those Block Talk cafes come in.
Yes.
Because that's where I'm trying to, like, with little funding, be able to create that network and access. the
There's always other funding.
I know, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay. I put this slide in because I wanted, another thing that was really crucial at this time was the support we were getting from a center director who said, look, you're looking at this in your world. This could be a sense of, this could provide a model that would give a sense of empowerment to other people. So come up with a 5-year plan. Might not happen, but think big. Don't just think inside your little world. And that gave us the impetus to go, okay, wait a minute. If we could dream big, what would we do? And so we came up with it. I'm not going to go over the 5-year plan, but I thought it was really important because at the end, we look at year number 5, opening up to the world.
It was so fun.
Exert Voc Ed pedagogical leadership. Both of us have moved on to provincial level positions because of this project. So,
C'est vrai.
you know, like it really, so it's important when you're thinking of a project, yes, you're putting it in context, but allow people to dream big. Because that's what's going to push them forward and develop that capacity to overcome some of the challenges. Okay, so we talked a little bit about, like, yeah, we kind of went over this.
We
what kind of-
explained,
yeah.
you know, the installation that we had.
Mhm. So it really was about getting all the equipment. And yeah, so
I told you the motto was, yeah, that it's fluid, you know, the iPad were in a cabinet and, you know, the teacher, they take it and then they go to the kitchen and they bring it back and the Apple TV is always on, and so they just, and it starts, très simple. Very simple. Right?
yeah, it was really, it wasn't about adding extra work onto the teacher or onto the student. It was about making it as easy as possible to integrate this.
Did you adapt technology for this, or is there existing, like, say for the camera overhead for the demonstration? I know they have those document cameras that some teachers use.
Yeah.
That more for a book or something, but sorry, what-
Yeah, like those, so we actually had those. So we had the document cameras, and depending on the type of demo, we would use that. We also had tripods.
We were more using stands
Yeah.
to
Okay,
attach
yeah.
the iPad or to
Very
attach the
simple,
phone,
like,
like not another image, we
Yeah.
pick up from directement.
Bluetooth or whatever,
We
Wi-Fi.
stopped, like we were having Apple TV on the
Yeah.
TV, so
Yeah.
or Chromecast, or you know, you
'Cause
can,
we were using
depending on the
iPads.
phone that you
Yeah.
use, so it goes
Yeah.
very easily in the TV.
Yeah.
C'est vraiment-
So year 2, so this is now growing. So year 2, this is now we're expanding the project. And this is where other centers, because we started presenting in conferences, other centers were calling us. And so we were sharing our information with other centers. And in year 2, there were 3 other centers that got grants to be able to do their version of this kind of a project. And so we were going to help them, and we were giving our expertise for that and continuing on I don't know how many presentations we did those years. We did
A
a
lot.
bunch.
And me,
Okay.
I moved, je te l'ai mis à côté, Robin. Very briefly, since the beginning, I like the theory, so I was looking for a model when we did that project. I said we should find something. We're going to work with teacher. How are they going to not to improve, but to move, you know, and to adopt the system. And there is one model in education that has been done by an Argentin. I think it's Ruben Puenteduras. So it's the Samar model. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it says that when someone starts using technology and it's the first time, they tend to replicate, you know, they are at the level substitution, they just do a direct substitute with no added value on education. And the more they use it, then it's like a staircase. The more they use it, the more they develop original material, or they will go to step 1 to step 2, and it's enough for them, and they do what they want, and you have other teacher that will go, you know. So, we've seen it. So we did not show it to the teacher. For me, it was just a model, and when I look back, I said, oh yes, it's very interesting. And
Not just for adult ed
Wait.
or Voc Ed.
C'est ça.
it's
For everything.
Reality.
But I did notice, just as an example, that teacher, they don't go at the same step. If you are already, comfortable with technology, you will go to the second step or to the third step. You don't know which door, at which level they will enter.
Yeah.
And I said to Robin, because I moved to another center, we studied in the plumbing lab. It was very fun to do that with the boy. And first we installed everything. And when I was coming in the lab, they were playing music full blast that's why they were using all the system for that. And I said, when I saw that, I was not happy, but I said, Denise, Samar, it's going to improve. And then they still put it when it's the post cafe, but then they start telling me, can I put a YouTube video? Can I put this? Can I put that? And so they evolve, So even if they start by putting the music full blast, even everybody's having a phone, they know that they can look at a video, so they ask me how to do it. And then they start doing material, they start saving on the drive. It was easy to go to get material, and they progress. It's
Do you have resistance from some teachers?
Some of them they don't use, or they use it all in different ways. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
everything, you have the early adapters, and then you have the people like.
But you see the evolution, and some of them will never use it. But I was having a teacher who he took the iPad. And the other day he came to see me, he said there is a bug in my iPad. She said, okay, what's going on? I said, let's try the on and off, We'll put it
Or
on.
reset.
I said, oh, I never turned it off. It was like 7 years. Windows. So I said to myself, he's using it. He did not tell me, but he said he didn't want to share, but he was using it. So it's
And that-
beautiful to see.
That coaching model that we were using was really about that. It's not about judgment. It's about supporting you at whatever level you're at. And so for some of the teachers, it was also, it's not about you, teacher. You don't have to be the one doing it. Maybe it's your students. Maybe you just see their empowerment and let them do it. I had one teacher who did the sketchiest thing during COVID, but I was like, that's an amazing teaching technique, but don't do that. Where they were teaching online, as a healthcare teacher, they were teaching online, and she couldn't figure it out. And so what she did was hand her drive password over to the students and said, students, I need you to set up the lesson. So I was like, oh my God, don't give out your password. That's really cool, but don't give out your password. But she had the students do everything. So she empowered the students to set up the Google Classroom, set up the presentation, organize the lesson. And she's just like, you send me in my email, so I can click on it and get in. And the students did everything. And she had actually, like, a year later, I spoke to her about her experience that she'd had time to reflect. Listen, getting a COVID, these are the healthcare programs. Remember when they were going online? And she, after reflecting on it, she was like, that was probably the best teaching experience I ever had, because I felt so little stress, and those students were so engaged that we enjoyed being together online and talking, and they learned so much from me, and I learned so much from them, and it was fantastic. And I was like, great, don't give your password out. So it shows that when we go back to the Samar model, it's not always about redefinition. It's not always about you self-appropriating technology and becoming like a content creator. It's about you leveraging technology that's congruent with your trade.
It helped me to self-reflect now when I have a teacher in front of me and they're struggling, I think of that and I say, which door am I going to? Où je vais passer, sometimes when it's difficile. So
yeah,
I really and you have to know your teacher also. I think Robin put it there, but the more you know your teacher, they are teacher, but they are someone also that you don't know. So in my school, little by little, one of the plumber, before being a plumber, he was a technicien audiovisuel in a library. So he's doing tons of video. And like this, and he participates. And then this year we got more money, and I said, what do you want to do? He said, I want to do video for the other program. They're struggling with that. And I was like, oui, ça c'est no, it's okay. I mean, it says we're moving. C'est très fun. One of the teacher, someone told me, do you know that he was a graphist before? Là, j'ai dit,
Graphic
hey,
artist.
Little Devil, you did not tell me that. Then he said to me, I said, well, you have planned reading with your students. Why don't we do something with the iPad? And now, even on the job market, they don't read, they don't have the paper plan anymore. They go with iPads and they put it on the TV. So now he's doing that. And first he was saying, no, 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 no. And now he's always telling me, thank you, thank you. And he's doing it very creative. He was a graphist. And then he did an interactive answer key. He put a lot of stuff in. Wow, when you see that, but I didn't know that, you know, so sometimes when you find, it's another entrance sometimes, the talent.
Yeah,
Les gens,
getting to know the
talent.
individual, for sure. Okay, it's noon, so I'm just gonna, okay, so we talked about this. We put these up if you wanted to see different forms of demo videos, because we did one kind, right, which is the canned video. There's all kinds of them. There's the peer-to-peer teaching videos. There was the ephemeral videos I call, where I'm doing my demonstration, but I film it on time lapse. Because if a demonstration lasts 10 minutes, and then the student, you put it on a loop at the top, you don't want the student to wait 10 minutes for that piece that they missed. So I film it on time lapse, so it only lasts about 30 seconds, and the student can quickly have a reference point. So we're gonna skip that activity. It was a cool idea.
But
No,
you,
no,
you were involved in cooking, teaching cooking?
No, I'm a center director.
Okay, so maybe we can share with you if you want.
Yeah.
Those videos,
Yeah.
you see different types, some are very good.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And the student-led videos, those are really kind of interesting, because then they start filming each other and they start helping each other. Like, there's one where, and like, I'll just, one of them here is, you can see, so for us in cooking, it's all about food. Once that food is like, once you've made that food gets put away, it gets sold at the store, and it's gone. So 2 weeks later, when you're trying to remember what you were struggling with the week before, what do we do? So what we were doing with the iPads is we were taking pictures of the food, and on the images, using the Apple Pencil, you write down on the image the stuff that you were doing well and the stuff that you were having difficulty with. And then that we save to the drive. And then as you're going through the competency, and we're saying, okay, you know what, every single time that we have presentation, you seem to be struggling with doing a nice finishing of your dish. So what are we going to do to help you out with that? You got the cooking technique down. You're okay with that part. So let's not focus on that. Let's work on it. And so having this traceability in an easy way, take a picture of your food, write with the Apple Pencil, and then send the image to your drive. It was super easy. So one of those are in there. So there's a few examples. Seeds and growth. So we already said that we moved on. Yeah, so COVID-19. That was a big, what that did, so you can't learn cooking online. Okay, but because we had integrated this technology, people were way more comfortable with going, okay, what are we going to do online? And there are some teachers that did Zoom classes, and like everybody was in their kitchen at home cooking stuff together, and it was more like community cooking. And there are some teachers that just did some theory stuff on class. There was some teachers, like there was all kind, but because we had this familiarity with these devices, that learning curve for teachers was a little bit shorter than what it would have been if we hadn't.
I know there was a teacher, it was the competency like food decoration. And he asked each student, he said, you're going to plate your food at home. When you have a breakfast, I want to receive a picture of a nice presentation of your breakfast when the school were completely closed. Yeah. It was so nice.
Yeah, it was.
I was looking at that. So, they place it and he sent the principal. So at least they were doing something, and they send their lunch, their dinner plate.
Yeah, that's right.
I've seen that. I was so happy.
But it was that self-appropriation of technology that happened. Okay, so yeah, we had our growth spiral. So it was really about this, just trying to keep going upwards at the speed that everybody was slightly uncomfortable with, but comfortable in being slightly uncomfortable, right? All right, we did our goals. I was going to do an exit ticket, but because we're out of time, is there anything you guys want to talk about? Any questions that you have?
What just kind of reflecting upon what I thought is like we have a huge immigrant population in our adult centers. And so it really works for low levels of literacy, vocational training with low levels of literacy. and that's kind of like illuminating for me. So I'm like,
Yeah, and there's not enough crossover between adult general, there's not enough crossover, like vocational education is always an afterthought. And like, I'm not gonna. I don't want the person to keynote today to feel bad, but there was no mention of vocational training in that scenario that we saw this morning, right? New sector, secondary, special needs,
yeah, how do we?
post-secondary, and you're like, hello. You know how many of those students we get in those classes? We get a lot. You know, and there's not enough crossover. And like, I can come up with a million cool ideas of what we could do. You know, you have immigrants, or you have people that struggle with literacy. Well, how cool would it be to get them to learn how to read a menu and how to order food and how to develop a series of questions about food allergies and whatnot, and then have them go eat at the restaurants, because every single culinary school has a restaurant. And so if you have the culinary program in your school board, there's a restaurant. So then you could bring the students, you know, I'm just making stuff up, you know? I was thinking, like, I've always wanted to do this one, I've never done, but I think this would be a cool project. I know that adult learners, there's like an art credit they have to fulfill to get their Sec 5. And it would be really cool to do a partnership project between the healthcare sector that does a lot of like case-based, like case studies, where if you're working with the art teacher to create like a standardized patient, so you write the person that like you embody a personage, and then you go act that person in a case study with the healthcare workers, where they're gonna have to deal with, you know, what the person that you've created. And it would create this bridge between adult general education and vocational. You know, there's all kinds of stuff that can happen, and we aren't doing it. So yeah, we need to.
And I've seen the other day a project that they're doing on La Côte Nord, and they add hours to the program, and they have maybe 60 hours to the program, and they teach time management, ils ajoutent comme calculation,
Yeah.
writing,
Yeah.
reading, and now they get money from the they get money from the adult sector, and they can add this to the program, and they do it at the beginning. Sometimes they do one week, speak week at the beginning, just to refresh. I know that one of the students, he said it was funny, but I don't remember, he said it's not the récupération, it's refreshing our memory.
Yeah, perfect memory. There's a few school boards doing that, but you're right, there's one on the North Shore, I think the Frontiers does that as well. It's kind of interesting.
Already met criteria to get into the programs, so you're looking at people who have Sec 4.
Yep, because if they don't, then it would be more like a work-oriented training, right? Because that's, or social integration, isn't that those codes? There's a social integration.
TP continues as social vocational integration.
Yeah, exactly.
But my comment is, I was a spec ed teacher for 23 years.
Yeah.
And all our students got iPads, and it's very similar what we do to teach the students with difficulty with literacy. But the thing that we encounter is our students can't meet criteria to get into the programs.
Yeah, and that's like,
So how do we get there and then there?
Yeah.
Like, this is beautiful, but we can't get them in.
you can't
in
get
the
the
first
students
place.
in. I know, and like, I wish I'd answered.
Yeah,
some
it's the big dilemma for
Yeah,
us.
yeah, but it's like, I look at it, especially like going back to the way people learn and the value inside of like cultural like how information is transmitted. Like, we don't address that enough, because dealing with the international cohorts, that became really obvious. And for the teachers that, and not crapping on the teachers, but like for the teachers that are like, oh yeah, those international students are struggling, they're struggling with language, they're not. And it's just like, are they really? Or like, watch what they're doing, because I'm not sure that's it. I think they're struggling with understanding what we're asking them to do, because they're coming from a different education system with different values in relation to learning. So like you were saying, like in a learning circle where the value of transmission is the elder is going to demonstrate you're going to observe, and then you will do it side by side with the elder. But the elder will be very patient, and they'll know it's gonna take you many, many times, and that's okay. But it's not about you questioning the elder. Now, put yourself into like happy white society where we're like, no, just ask questions, ask lots of questions. And so the teachers coming in are like, why aren't you asking questions? And it's like, hey, whoa, like there isn't that sort of critical thinking shift
Yeah.
that needs to happen.
Just a quick personal anecdote. I had a traditional ceremony for my children, and my mom came up from Ontario, and an elder friend, they were making bannock. And you know, Cree people, when they're cooking, it's just like flour and lard, and then my mom is like, oh, like how many cups of flour? And the elder lady is just kind of looking, she's like,
That many.
it's always like that.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
very interesting.
And so how do you do a project like this where you're leveraging the affordances of a community? And I think it's really important to look at that and go, wait a minute. They do learn because, you know, they've survived this long, so it's not like, they learn. You know, I made the reference to Indigenous TikTok. If you've ever gone to Indigenous, because I got kids, so they're all like, TikTok. Indigenous TikTok is amazing.
I'll have to check that out.
Oh my God, they have like incredible stuff. Oh, and you're just like, you know, I know TikTok's evil and it's selling our data to the Chinese government, but my thing is always, like, you know,
It's PR,
That's probably the Canadian government anyways.
Again, thanks for starting about that. But you know what?
You have to make the code.
Oh, that's what I
Yes,
was gonna say. She'll copy that.
But like,
I think they came up north actually last year.
stuff that they looked at.
Yeah, that's great, yeah.
And I have all those notes that
That's
I
because
stuff
of their-
as email.
Yeah.
You know,
I think me, fully informed reality, right?
Wait,
But
specifically.
We're evolving with it, right? And money's not an issue. Yeah.
the one.
But the thing is with this, like the whole Cree school board in itself is doing its best. They're really pushing the decolonization. I don't know how many times I've heard that word lately. Rightly so, but this is all in line with that because they want hands-on. They want hands-on location. They want to have higher learning opportunities. You're welcome.
Sorry.
Yeah.